reject them if they are inappropriate, and try to adopt them in a way that is possible if you find that they are worthwhile. Now, first of all, we have to talk about the NRI marriages. Mr. Chairman, you will recall that in the last session, also where I was fortunate to be present, I have made some concrete suggestions. First of all, I dwelled upon at that time, and I have still got that point in my mind, about the poverty-stricken areas of the old city. Poverty is the main evil. Poverty really takes people to heights and to ways which are not worthwhile to live in a society. So must be done what is that we should all try to put our shoulder to the wheel and see that the economic conditions of the people, particularly in the old city, irrespective of caste and creed. I am not confining myself to any particular tenet or religion in this aspect, must be removed and improved. That is one point. Secondly, I did say, and I still stick to my point, because this is the point which has been lingering in my mind ever since the time that I told you when Honorable P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Foreign Minister of India, and I was a young barrister studying at the bar at that time, having come from independent degrees in international law, and particularly the conflict of laws, which is very appropriate for this seminar here. I do say again that there are two ways to control this particular evil which has been rampant in the society in all areas again, in the old city areas. One is that we must really supervise strictly the functioning of the Hazis who promulgate Muslim marriages. I do say this because what I find is that there is a remarkable paucity of legislation in this field, because the only act which still governs from its grave, if I may say so, is the act passed by the British Parliament, I think in 1988 or 1980, consisting of only 4 sections. Why don't we have a comprehensive model of rules or legislative regulations which must make it incumbent about every Haji who is
solemnizing a marriage to first of all search for the antecedents of the parties, to know for what purpose the marriage is being done, to come to the conclusion whether it is only a commercial proposition of making a fast buck by collecting money from people who are coming and getting married, living in 5-star hotels and then going away. This is illegal. This must be uprooted. No one can say no to that. So this sort of thing, the age of the parties, the antecedents of the people, the way the marriage is being solemnized, the situation which is surrounding the marriage, the object for which the marriage is actually being overtaken, all these things must be a subject of scrutiny at the very first level. But mind you, that in Muslim marriages, everyone has got a right to solemnize his or her marriage according to the personal law of the Muslims. Because personal law is sacrosanct. It has been recognized all over the world. If I may just tell you in a very quick expression that even the English court, the Queensway division at one time, was in a dubious mind to decide the case of 2 Hyderabadi people, wife and husband, namely Rizwan versus Shahnaz. Those who are lawyers will probably look into that, 1976. And in the Queensway division at that time, Mr. Justice Willis was the presiding judge in the Royal Courts of Justice. They asked my opinion about that. Rizwan was a man from Hyderabad, Shahnaz was a girl from a very eminent feudal family of Hyderabad. Then the expression was given because Willis was suffering from the doubt that how can you give expression or legality to a union which is potentially polygamous. You see, what he said was very, very important, potentially polygamous. But at the same time, then they say that this is the rule among the Muslims, and a Muslim can certainly marry 4 wives legally, and not arbitrarily, but according to the law and the Sunnah. So that is not to be touched at all, because Muslim law to the persons, as to other persons who profess other religions, who may be the Hindus or Christians or Sikhs or anyone, is all sacrosanct. So first is control the causes and the situations existing in the society. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, the road is very clear. We should actually strengthen our passport rules. I said this long back, and I wrote this in my written opinion which I gave at that time to the Government of India. Narasimha Rao was very appreciative. Narasimha Rao was very appreciative at that time. I said that passports should not be issued at random. They must again be scrutinized. This will be the second door, or the second realm of affairs which can be really seen and really as to sort of examine, you see, with great gusto as to why the parties are trying to go out, what are the rules that are governing. Here again there is a lacuna in law, because I think that the scrutiny is not being done in the same manner with regard to the passports and visas as it ought to be done. Mr. Chairman, I am now saying something which I did not say at the last time, and in a very brief while, I know Minister must be a very busy person, I'm sure, but he will permit me probably to go ahead. You see, what I mentioned at that time was that some lady speakers were talking about the rules of migration, and I was one with them, having worked in the United Nations organization also at the human rights level for 4 years in Geneva. I was one with them that international agencies, the law of migration, specialized agencies in the United Nations, there are so many other agencies, they must be activated and must be availed of to solve our problems. But one thing now I feel is that if you take a census of the marriages, NRI marriages which are happening mostly, say for example from country X, I am not saying Saudi Arabia or Kuwait or America or China or country Y or country Z, then I think we should try, and this is what we are not doing, we should try to enter into bilateral agreements with these countries, if not international level. We should have the bilateral agreements through our foreign services, and it is the responsibility of the foreign service and the diplomatic services to have a bilateral agreement with these countries, asking them to be very wise and cautious before they actually allow persons of their own origin to come and say settle down in Hyderabad or UP or Lucknow or Punjab or Mysore or Madras, wherever it may be, and to search for the object for which they are coming, and if you find it dubious, then they should not be allowed really to come on a strength of a visa or the passport which has been given by that country. Be that as it may, that is a very important point. I am coming now, with the shortage of time, to the question of media. In media, I feel that there is, particularly in this country here, in ours, there is very little of legislation. You see, I have got here the Constitution of India, which as a lawyer I brought to be on the safe side. Now, if you see the union list and the entry 31 there, let me put on my specs for a minute. The entry there, then I am reading the union list, which is in the domain of the union government, not in the state government. What can the minister of the state do here? Really speaking. I mean, it's a central subject. I am reading the article and then I'll keep it there. 31 in the union list, posts and telegraphs, telephones, wireless, broadcasting, and other like forms of communication, they all fall within the domain of your parliament. The center to pull up their socks, as I said last time, and to have legislation. Very briefly, have a look, for example, at the pattern in the BBC. I have lived in England for a long time. I am a barrister from England and I have been a student there. I have spoken in BBC sessions at one time when I was a debater in London University. You see, all these things are there. You must actually think of legislation. I think the gentleman in the corner, I am forgetting his name, at the extreme corner, he did speak. I am a little short of Telugu. I must confess that. A little short of Telugu, but I understand the main themes. I think you are right. He was right in saying And the state? Something.
Broadcasting. Broadcasting bill.
Broadcasting bill. Yeah, yes, you said broadcasting bill. Broadcasting is occurring in entry 31 of the Parliament domain actually here. So these things are there, and they must actually have these things. You see, above all, the media, I agree with the general consensus of this seminar, is really all pervasive now. I think, and I stand corrected if I am wrong, they are crossing their limits. Ad nauseum as they say in Latin, in law, they go on repeating one story hours after hour, and then you get nauseated by listening to this. Only the other day, some lady was shot at the back of the head when she was traveling in her own car, driving at 3 o'clock in the morning, alone presumably, but we do not know what happened. And then the poor Chief Minister of Delhi, she was absolutely right when she used the word adventure. She said, why the lady alone, a young lady, should struggle out and come off in her own car on the streets of Delhi. But she said, I am very, very sorry for what has happened. She said very, 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 very 3 times. And the next day, all the 3 channels were up in arms against her. What is wrong with that expression, I don't know. This is one of the characteristics of the media, that they really want to slaughter the good public health opinion and try to impose their own views. They are actually indulging in indecencies. They are actually showing things which are obscene, which we can't see our own children. As people of Bharat, we have got our own culture, our own civilization, to whatever creed we may belong, to whatever faith we may belong. So these things are there. Here, there is an absence of legislation. And wherever there is legislation, allow me to say that unfortunately, the legislation is not being implemented. I have been a chairman of the National Commission for Minorities. I know the legislation about minorities, the legislation about child labor, the legislation about other matters. It's all on the papers. No one is really giving a second thought to them. Judgments of the courts are being thrown into riverbeds, saying that they are of no consequence. All in all, Mr. Chairman, let me congratulate you once again.